All right, what's up, everybody? Here we are in the palatial states up here in Austin, New York, with my partner, my partner in law enforcement, Bill Cannon. What's up, buddy?
How you doing, man? You're doing better than me. I'm not getting as much work as you. You're getting work in show business.
You work a lot.
Yeah,
you're always doing some commercial.
Trying to do something.
You got the face, man. Your face is on all the buses in New York City, Monroe College.
Yeah, it used to be.
It's a great face.
Hey, why are we giving them a plug? They're not paying me.
No, they stopped? But they're still using it?
No, they don't use it anymore.
I always see it.
No.
Anyway, so I had a stroke of good fortune this week. I made an appearance. I played Detective Cortez on this new show that's coming out. It's called FBI Most Wanted. It's going to be on CBS.
Is that going to be an ongoing role for you or no?
Nah. I mean, it's a small part.
They didn't even kill Detective Cortez? They just
he didn't get killed, thank God. But it was fun. It's a spin-off of the show that's FBI.
Yeah. That's
already on TV right now. And this is a spin-off. It's called FBI Most Wanted. They're like the Warrant Squad. They drive around the country in a bus looking.
So you were in Warrant, so they figured you'd know what you were doing, so they brought you in.
Well, I played a detective. I played detective from some squad room in the Bronx that they bring on board of this bus to go look at some DD5s that they can't read because they're written like third grade language. But it was great. So I want to give a shout out to Jonathan Strauss Casting. And the director, Fred Berner. And it was a great experience. The whole cast is they were all great actors, man. I mean, the one guy that, this in the scene that I do, even though it's really small, I almost get into a fight with one of the FBI agents. And he was in the movie.
Hey, that's real life shit. Real cops don't get along with the FBI.
Yeah, that's why I guess I brought a little bit of that to it.
Good, man. You got to be nasty to the FBI.
And everybody's always like, there's no such thing as small parts. And I'll tell you something.
It's only small actors.
Listen, I did the appearance on Law & Order this past season, SVU, and you want to talk about small parts? Okay, listen. If they're running the credits over your face while you're saying your one line, it's a pretty small part.
That's pretty disrespectful.
This one's like in the middle of the story. So, so that was a pretty cool experience. So I wanted to give my shout outs and say thank you. Oh, what I wanted to say about the cast is that the guy I almost get into a fight with, he was in those movies, the vampire movies. Andrew, what were those? Those girly movies. Twilight. See, I knew you would know.
Wow. Andrew knows everything about cinema.
I knew. Yeah. Twilight series. That's because my daughter was that age and my son.
You better be nice to Andrew. Andrew is, he's in demand in the podcast business.
Yeah, I know. And guess what? We're your first show. You started with us. This is your loyalty.
That's right. People say, hey, are you the engineer from Police Off the Cuff? And he proudly says, yes, I am.
He's doing like 10 podcasts. And he said, I'm not available. No, this is...
You fucker, you're going to come and do this.
Unless you're going to get paid some real money. And in that case, you better cut us in.
That's right, man.
But yeah, he's in the Twilight
can I just
series.
plug one thing? This is going to come out this Friday, Saturday night. I'm at Lucy's. There's a show at 6. It's the Oktoberfest Comedy Festival. I'm producing both shows, but I'm only on the second one at 8 o'clock because I didn't want people to have to come out so early.
No, off the first one?
I could have been on the first one. I didn't want to be on the first one, too. It's too early because I'm going to produce it, too. I want to be there to supervise, like a sergeant, but supervising comedy.
Yeah, these guys, these comics, they don't know they got it.
No, that's right. They need to be supervised. I need to read them their rights.
You're on this show. Make sure that you're there on time. You're ready to go. You don't go over the light.
And if there's not enough people in the seats, don't think you're getting paid because I'm not going into
dress properly.
I'm not going into the red to pay you.
Look professional. No shorts.
Right. Oh man, I hate when comics wear shorts.
Yeah. All right. Anyway,
that's ridiculous.
We got a great guest today, man. I'm very, very excited. He's a retired New York City police officer. He did 20 years on the job, just like me. You worked with him.
Yeah.
So
want to hear something crazy? And when he walked into my house, I said, I haven't seen you in 29 years. We worked as sergeants together in the 2-6 precinct in 1990.
God, we're old.
Yeah, we are old fuckers, huh? Holy shit. And he looks like a mob lawyer now, He's got the bald head. He's got it all going.
Listen,
how much was that jacket? That's definitely
He looks sharp.
Outlet,
he looks sharp. Let's Bill, introduce him.
This is Louis LaPietra, a lawyer extraordinaire and retired NYPD sergeant. He used the job more than he didn't let the job use him.
Lou
right?
LaPietra. ESQ, right? Esquire.
I've been called worse.
So you just got to move up to the microphone a little bit because we want to make sure we hear everything you say. That's better.
All right.
So how do you know Bill?
So interestingly enough, in 1990, I'm in back then when you made sergeant, You did 6 months in a, I guess.
BMOC?
The first command.
No. Well, you did BMOC, and then your first command you did 6 months, and they didn't
Okay.
want you to get too comfortable, and then you would go to your next command. So my first command was the 2-8, and then my next command was the 2-6, and Billy came into the 2-6, I guess, as
That
part
was
of
my
your
s-
first 6
Yeah, that was my
months, right?
6-month command. Yeah.
And we were rookie sergeants. I mean, big deal. I had 6 months more than him. What did I know? You know, and we were rookie sergeants together.
And I had just come from street crime, so I was like,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to kill, you know?
Yeah.
And
still
he
had-
was so
you
laid
still had,
back, you know?
Yeah.
You still had meat carcass in your teeth, right?
that's right.
Blood dripping out of your mouth.
Yeah.
That's right, you know. And then when I went to the 2-6, which was such a laid back command, as you know, they call the 2-6 the hole in the donut.
Yeah,
Because
that's where I
everything
worked.
happens around the 2-6, right?
Yeah, and Mark, you were in a 2-6
Yeah.
also? When were you there?
I guess 2002 I went there, and I stayed there for 5 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So that's,
2000,
he was in the squad.
2005.
That's
no,
after-
to
that's way after.
2007,
Yeah.
2002. Because I did 9/11, and when I was in the Warrant Squad, I was still there. And then sometime after 9/11, I got transferred to the 2-4 first. I did 6 months there, and then one day I just walked in, and I hated the 2-4. By the way, I don't know, just I hated the squad. But
You were in the
anyway,
squad in
I
the
like
2-4?
2-6 better. Anyway, I just got a phone call. It says, "Oh, you've been transferred to the 2-6," which turned out better. It was a little slower,
Yeah.
you know.
There's more. I think there's more juice in the 2-6 too because of Columbia University. You know.
Yeah, there's a
You
lot of
remember-
stuff
We
going on
remember
there.
dealing with Columbia, which was
We
a
weren't
horror.
allowed in there.
Right, it was ridiculous.
You know, if
someone
you
was
had
a victim
yeah.
of a crime, right, you couldn't come on the campus.
You go to the gate and you wait for a
yeah,
supervisor.
you had to be
Oh, really? Wow.
escorted by their security. You know, who probably also had NYPD numbers, right?
I wonder if that's still the case,
I don't know.
as far as, access to the...
No, Columbia University, they don't like the police.
I walked around in there, but I was in the squad, so I was in the suit. So I
They
guess
didn't know
it
who
was
you
okay.
are. Yeah, they thought you were a radical leftist student.
Plus, I got a chance to. We used to work really close with the head of security there. He was a retired first grader.
Well, no, that was the head of their investigative security.
Yeah.
The head of security was a retired chief from narcotics, McSwain or something.
Oh, yeah. I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Well, the investigators.
Yeah.
That guy, he was great. He used to
McShane. I think it
McShane,
was.
McShane, yeah. He was
Jimmy McShane.
Right.
Yep.
And he turned into a lib too, just from working there.
Yeah.
So you guys are on the same tour when you're working in the 2-6 now.
I don't remember. All I remember, I don't know, I have this vivid memory of you saying to somebody, and I quote, "I'll slap you." And I don't remember the context. I don't remember like what the guy said or did, but the guy took him pretty seriously. He's like, "Oh, okay." I don't know if it was a perp. I don't know, a complainant. I have no idea, but I
Sounds
do
like
remember
me.
that. Yeah.
I was not long for the 2-6. I mean, I didn't like the 2-6 because it was like too slow. There was too much like
Especially
internal
at that
politics.
time, yeah.
Everyone in the 2-6 was hooked with a boss within the command.
It's amazing because I was in the 2-8, and the 2-8 in 1989 was like,
Rocking.
it was, you had a, I mean, there's a couple of stories that come to mind. And this has to do with real estate. You know how people say, you should have invested in real estate back then?
Right. Mhm.
So back then, I remember going, and I was on a midnight, and it was one of those, 1013. So it wasn't an MOS calling. But MOS shot is what it said, right? So we go to 117th between 7th and Lenox. And EMS was right behind us. That was when EMS was still...
Just for our audience, for one, he's using a few acronyms. MOS stands for Member of the Service.
Right.
EMS, of course, is Emergency Medical
You mean there's
Service.
non-cops that listen to this?
Some non-cops
That's
listen to this
good.
and they say, we don't know what we're talking about
There's a
because you
lot.
guys use code,
There's a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, but anyway, the non-cops will get a kick out of this because... So we get there, and there's a guy, and it's really cold. It's like, I don't know, 5 below zero on a February night. It's on the late tour. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. And there's a guy, and he's laying face down, and he's doing the death suck, right? You know
What's
the death
that?
suck? That's when somebody's going, as we like to say, he's going out of the picture,
Well, out of the
Central.
picture, yeah.
And he's going, he's laying face down, right?
Do that again? I like
Right?
that.
We turn him over.
I can't do it.
Who the hell invented that expression?
Death suck?
He's going out of the picture, Central. Like, I know.
And you know what
it
that
was
means,
a common,
right? It was a common thing
yeah.
over the radio. That meant the guy, he's going
Rush
to
the
die.
bus,
that,
he's
though.
going
Rush
out
the
of the
bus,
picture.
he's going out of the picture. So we turn the guy over, and the guy is opened up completely. So what we later found out is somebody took an Uzi with a 30-round clip, emptied it into the guy, and then for good measure, took a hook knife and disemboweled him.
Oh my God!
From navel to throat. So when we turned him over, his intestines had fused to the street. Right?
Oh, because of the cold weather.
Because of the cold,
Ice.
and they were steaming.
Oh my God!
Right? And so I always refer to this as the steaming gizzards story, right? And they're steaming, and we're trying to help this guy, and he's still alive, and he's
alive.
He's alive. He's
my
hemorrhaging
God.
through his nose and mouth, and he's trying, and so. Trying to be a good cop. I'm like, who did this? Who did this? Right? And he's like, oh, I can't understand what. He's bubbling and bleeding. They put him in the ambulance, and half of his gizzards are still stuck to the ground. Like they separated.
Yeah.
I mean, his large intestine unraveled like the old, frankfurters you'd see on a Popeye cartoon. It was like that.
This is pretty graphic, show, man. We're going to get an R rating for this episode, I think.
So whatever, we take them they go in the ambulance, and we go to St. Luke's, and there was an old expression. Remember, if I get shot in front of Harlem, take me to Luke's. Remember that?
That's right. But
If you get shot in front of Harlem Hospital.
Yeah, if I get shot in front of Harlem, Harlem Hospital would kill you.
shot in
Right,
front
they
of a
used to say
hospital.
Harlem hospitals killed more people than guns.
Yeah, right. It's true.
But then years later, it became the #1 trauma hospital in Manhattan.
Yeah. This is 1989,
Yeah.
though. And in 1989, you
Columbia
didn't want
Press
to go
was the place to go in 1989.
Yeah. So we take them to St. Luke's. So I go, and there's these two cops. I don't remember their names. I remember they were really Italian. One guy had a big, in the 80s, mustaches were big.
Yeah.
I had one. And
Everybody had one.
I had this big
Girls
from
had
had a
mustache.
nice
Got it
head
from
of
the
hair like
equipment
you.
section. Those mustaches came from the
Yeah.
equipment section back then, right?
It was like, so Tony and Joey, they said, Sarge, it's cold. You mind if we sit in the car? I said, okay. Make a crime scene around the steaming gizzards. And when night watch comes and crime scene comes, do what you got to do. So I get to the hospital. This guy is still alive.
Fuck, without the
my
gizzards.
God.
Right? But he's going. He's going fast.
He's likely.
I get a call on the radio. Central says, 8th Sergeant, respond back to the crime scene.
Somebody stole the gizzards. Somebody stole the
A
gizzards?
pit bull.
Started eating
A
it.
stray pit bull
my
comes
God.
out. The guys were like, I'm like, what happened? The guy's like, you're not going to believe this. A dog came out from between two cars.
Oh, my God.
He put half the shit in his mouth and he took off. I'm like, that's another 49 I got to write. Now I got to write two.
God.
Well, I don't
So-
think the guy that got shot needed that stuff anyway.
I mean, but to circle back to the story, where he was shot and where those steaming gizzards were and ultimately were taken were in front of 3 brownstones on 117th Street, right? And they were owned by HUD. The Fed had it. You had to buy 3. You had to buy all 3.
You know who was in charge of HUD back then or shortly thereafter? Andrew Cuomo was appointed by the Clintons
That
to
sounds
run
right.
HUD.
Yeah. So, I mean, imagine that you had the opportunity to buy these 3 brownstones. They were shells.
Yeah.
And I later learned that even if you bought the shells, that the Fed would have given you money to rehab them.
Wow.
Right? Take a guess how much they were for all 3. You had to buy a lot of 3. Now, 3-story brownstones.
150,000.
60,000.
30,000, 10,000.
I was going to say that first.
Each.
Damn it.
Those are now.
That was my
those
first
are turned
choice.
into condos. Every
Millions.
floor is a condo, and each condo is probably $2 or $3 million.
I remember
do
HUD.
the math.
They used to do programs for cops, too. A cop on the block, you would get a chance to buy a house in probably a bad area, but
But can you imagine having the courage to buy that house? I mean, I'm standing in the guy's steaming gizzards. I'm not looking to buy a house. I don't even want to stand there. Much
But
less
you
buy
know
a
something?
house.
In the 60s and 70s and early 80s, the Upper West Side was like that.
you got to be a visionary, though. I mean, you really do. I mean, how could you even predict that?
Never.
Like the way
Never.
Giuliani transformed Times Square. When we grew up, Times Square, like you
was a
can never
cesspool.
even imagine it. You can never imagine what it's like today.
Right.
The way it used to be, with the peep shows and the drugs and all the drunk derelicts hanging out in front of
The Deuce.
Yeah,
42nd, 8th.
the
Yeah.
train station. What's that called?
Grand Central.
It's not Grand
No,
Central. Grand Central
the
is-
Port Authority.
Port Authority, yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah.
It was really bad. So I'm saying coming from that world, from the 2.8 to the 2.6, was actually
Yeah, for you,
rather
it was
nice.
And in the 2-8 back then, they had the huge heroin problem. So the people with the elephantitis legs, remember that?
Yeah. I remember there was a guy.
This was actually pre-AIDS too, right? Or was it just around the time
It was
AIDS
just
was
around
hitting?
the time of AIDS. There was so many abandoned buildings in the confines of the 2-8 that we were, I think, the only command that was authorized to leave the command for meal because there was nowhere to go.
There was nowhere to go. Yeah.
You know.
That's interesting.
Well, you were on that job with me in the 2-6 when that woman jumped out the window and got impaled, right? Were you on that job?
I'm not sure if I was. I don't know. Look, I mean, my police
I had
career
a
is a blur.
2-6 impaled at Columbia University. And, I thought my guy was a male. He was impaled. He was a professor there.
Yeah, mine was a Columbia University student.
Yeah.
Who?
I had a girl. She was a suicide from
terrible.
Manhattan School of Music. That one was bad.
You know.
I still think about that one.
Yeah.
That
bad
one.
stuff.
She jumped.
Yeah, she was a young girl, man. She was like 19.
A lot of those Ivy League schools, they put so much academic pressure on the kids that the kids in Cornell, they have the gorge. And kids used to swan dive off that bridge into the gorge. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they'd have to have like people watching the gorge during exam time, you know?
So only cops could do this. I take my daughter up to see Cornell because she got waitlisted for it. And I'm like, there's this great program in New York State. 2 of the Cornell colleges are SUNY colleges. If you're a New York resident, you pay SUNY tuition. So I'm like, oh, please let this kid go. But then like an idiot, we go to the gorge and I go, isn't this where all the kids jump off when they're stressed out? She's like, yeah. So she's like, nah, Dad, I think I'm good.
I don't want the temptation of this jump, you know?
You know?
Yeah, that ledge in the Manhattan School of Music, I think it's like 6 stories up, man. But when you look over it, oh my God. And she landed on her feet, man. The chute exploded. It went sideways.
I remember this real fat lady jumped out of this building in the 2-3, and she hit dirt and she left a huge crater. And I cop humor. I don't know why I found it funny that there was like a huge crater under it. It's not funny, you know.
No, it's but some of the stuff. I mean,
that's the thing. It's like that's what most people don't realize is that you develop. It's a defense
macabre
mechanism.
sense of humor.
You
Yeah,
took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah.
I remember
it's
one
horrible.
time when I was a
horrible.
rookie too. There was an accident. This car went off. I think it used to be called the Frederick Douglass Highway, and then it went onto the Van Wyck. I think where they overpass. And these 2 girls were driving one way, and this car went off going the other way, and it hit the roof, and the girls got decapitated. Oof. So the 2 responding officers, they couldn't handle it. They were freaking out. And then so 2 other officers show up, and they were like, "What's the matter?" And then I guess they lost their heads, you know, and they took over the job. But it's not for everybody.
I had a one-legged guy shoot and kill this guy on 83rd Street in the 2-0. Actually, I had the detective bureau, you know, and Captain Rowe, his brother, you know, the one guy who worked in the 2-6. So he shows up and he says to me, he goes, "What happened?" I go, this one-legged guy shot and killed this guy on the block who's supposedly a bully. He goes, "What are they saying about it?" I go, "They're saying he doesn't have a leg to stand on." And he didn't even crack a smile. He was like so pissed that I made that joke. And then I saw his face. He couldn't help it. He had to laugh after that, you know.
We got a guy once on a warrant, and he only had one arm. So what do you do with the cuffs, right? You cuff him to his belt buckle.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Man.
That's got to be. You get 2 arms, you get handcuffed, you know. But if you only got one, you always count on that.
That used to happen.
I never had that.
A lot back in the day. Someone missing an arm or something. You're like, well, how do I cuff this guy? You know.
Yeah, it happens.
I saw one of you were talking about an escaped prisoner or something, and it on one of these.
Yeah.
And I had one as a cop. I'll never forget the panic. I get this guy. This is the 80s Bronx Task Force. We used to have a DWI task force.
Yeah, I was in that, but I was in the Queens one.
Oh, so you remember that, right?
Yeah.
So it was like overtime, and you just stood, and we would sit on the corner of Tremont and Webster, and everybody was drunk. We just would pick out the most drunk.
We would sit on Roosevelt Avenue.
You know?
Yeah.
And there's a guy, and he's in a box truck with a refrigerator unit on it, and he's kind of like up against the glass, and we're like, wow, this guy barely looks conscious. Let's pull him over. We pull him over. We open, and he falls out of the truck. He just falls. I mean, the guy was like, He blew when he finally was able to blow like a 3-2. He was basically like 3 points below alcohol death. Right?
Sopla.
So we bring him. I mean, it was just crazy. We bring him to Jacoby. My aunt, God rest her soul, was the supervising emergency room nurse. So I'm like, hey, Aunt, how are you? I'm like, I leave the guy cuffed to the bed. I come back. There's the cuff. No guy.
Oh man.
I'm like, oh my God. I'm having a panic attack, right? I'm running up and down the hallway. There's like square badge security at that time. I don't even think it was Health and Hospitals police. And I'm like, anybody see this guy? And I'm running. And I don't want to go over the air because like you said, right? Once you go over the air, it's all over. Yeah. I run out. I remember I run out into the entrance. There's like a circular entrance for Jacoby, and he's not around. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to go over the air. Next thing you know, I see the guy. And he walks back and he sits up on the bed. And I'm like,
Where'd you go?
Where'd you go? He goes, I got to go to the bathroom. He goes, I said, you're not supposed to leave. He goes, I don't kill nobody. He goes, I'm right here. I'm like, talk about like,
that was like an automatic suspension. It became an automatic suspension. And they would take usually like a week to 2 weeks from the guy.
You could drive up and down Roosevelt Avenue almost any night, but definitely on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And you could pretty much call your shot. Like, for example, if we had a van and 4 guys, 3 guys looking, you didn't have to start looking. When I mean looking to make a DWI arrest, you didn't have to start looking till like 12:30. And we were done at 2 a.m. So by 1:30, 1:15, you had three in the van.
Yeah.
It was like shooting ducks in the barrel, man.
It really was.
And he used to pull the car over because everybody was drunk. He used to pull the car over. And a lot of times, I don't speak English. Sopla! And that's it. You take it's this field sobriety test, and it's got a straw on it, and you just shove it right in the mouth. Sopla! And then they blow out. And then you just stand there and look at it. And if it was like back then, it
was 1-0.
You got to figure in the time between how long it's going to take them to blow.
Right.
The official breathalyzer test, which was in the 112 precinct. So you got to be able to gauge, is this guy still going to be drunk like 2 hours from now? You got 2 hours to get him tested.
Right.
So if he's only a 1.2, fuck it, let him go. What are you going to do?
And let him go.
So we used to, all right, he's a 1.6. He's good to go. Cuff him up. That one's yours. Get back in the van. And if it wasn't good enough, all right, fuck it. No more drinking. You got it? Okay, officer, get out of here. Jump back in the van.
We remember, like in the 90s, all the livery cabs had these fake plates, these dealer plates, right? Which meant they had no insurance. They weren't registered. You'd pull them over. Right, you'd pull them over and they'd
the
go,
gypsy cabs.
They would say, no English. No English. And they would like try to exhaust you with that. But I would just pull out my handcuffs. And click them, and then they'd say, please, officer, do not arrest me. And I said, wow, you learned English pretty quick. I said, handcuffs are better than Rosetta Stone for teaching English.
It's emergency English.
That's right.
Yeah.
Some people hate that joke. I've done that joke doing stand-up. And this one comic whose father was a cab driver said, I hate that joke. I said, it's too bad. You don't like it. I'm not telling it for you and
it's
your
a different
cab
life
driver
experience,
father.
that's for sure. This shit is not for everybody.
No. I always say that about me.
No.
I'm not for everybody, I'm an acquired taste.
Yeah, that's true. I guess we all are in a way.
We all are, sure. You can't be liked by everyone, right?
Yeah, I don't know. If you are, you're not really being real, I don't think.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Can't be internationally loved like Louis Pietra.
Wow.
Goes to Italy, they love him.
I don't know.
So how'd you become a lawyer? What happened?
Man, I don't even.
You said you had 2 years that... You said you basically did 18 and then you went to work somewhere else for 2 years?
Yeah, I stood on our payroll. I stood on our payroll. When I want to say in the year 2000, I was a managing attorney in the legal bureau.
So you already became a lawyer while you were on the job?
Yeah.
How many years did you have on before you became a lawyer?
So I came on in 83. I didn't get my bachelor's degree till 91.
So you were going to school from 83 to 91, somewhere in there you picked up and you started going back to school.
Exactly.
How much schooling did you have to get done?
Well, I had to go to get, you got to get an undergrad like everybody else.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, right? Did you have a year into it?
Yeah, I had maybe, I don't know. When I came on the job, I had maybe like
because Joe Murray had 1 year.
And he had one semester.
Yeah.
One semester.
Yeah. Pretty close, pretty similar. Mm-hmm. Like 16 credits, I want to say I had. I was, I was going to cure the world through music therapy back then. I had long hair. I was a psych major and a music major. I was going to Mercy College and then the Westchester
Oh, this is the
Conservatory of
first
Music.
time, your first go around.
Yeah,
Okay.
when I first before I became a cop. And
Were you in a band?
Yeah. I mean, I was.
What kind of band? Rock and roll?
It was a.
You were heavy metal, right?
Yeah, it was a prog. So it was a prog rock original metal band, right?
Prague,
So
you mean from Czechoslovakia?
No, I mean like progressive rock.
Oh.
Like Yes, ELP, Dream Theater kind of stuff. Like, but we looked like Twisted Sister. We
You
wore
wore
like
makeup and
leather,
stuff?
no makeup, but we all had long hair. And I remember being appointed to the job, and I pulled up. There was a theater that in January of '83 they had they used the theater. It was 2,500 people going in to get appointed. It was a Monday, and I get on the line and I go and they're like, and there's these two guys, apparently in hindsight, detectives from applicant processing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, "Can I help you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm here to be appointed in the NYPD." They're like, "Really? What's your name?" I go, "My name is Lula Pietra." They go, "This ain't no Don Kirshner's rock concert. This is the police department. Take seat 21." And I remember that guy, Lieutenant Burkhardt. Did you have him?
No.
He was like the disciplinarian of the academy. And he makes a speech and he tells everybody, "You got until Friday to get a haircut." I mean, I had hair that looked I looked like Farrah Fawcett Majors. It was unbelievable. If I show you pictures, you'll be, it was like this flowing mane.
Well, we definitely want pictures to put up with.
You'll
to accompany the podcast.
You'll get a kick out of this. But the guy makes a beeline for me. He goes, "Everybody's got until Friday, but not you. You got until tomorrow. Because if you come in here looking like that tomorrow, you're out." And I'm like,
shit.
"Oh, shit." So I remember my father had to call
What a difference between now
his
and
friend
back then.
Luigi the barber. Luigi the barber had to come because the barbers are all closed on Monday. He had to come with his bag. And my father, a year earlier, had said, you got to understand, I'm first generation Italian American. That's why I'm fluent in Italian. And my dad was a carpenter from Italy with a 6th grade education. He didn't know. I didn't have any, I was an outcast. I'm trying to become a rock guy, And a year earlier, he goes, "Cut her this fucking hair, please."
Cut her this fucking hair. I love it.
He goes, "I'll give you 2,000. Now, back in 1982, 2,000 was real money. And like an idiot, I said no. I said, "No, Dad, we're gonna get a record deal. I need the hair, right?" So when he calls Luigi the barber, he goes, "Luigi's gonna come and give her the haircut." And no 2,000.
That's great, man.
So I get the haircut.
Why did you want to become a cop, though?
There was something in me as a kid that always wanted to become a cop. I remember being growing up on 185th Street in the Bronx before we moved to the suburbs of Belmont, on Laurelard Place, Arthur Avenue. The guy across the street was a cop. I was a little kid. And I remember once in a while I'd see a car that looked like that green, black, and white. Mm-hmm. And I thought this guy was God, And then I remember something happened. He died.
Wow.
And there was a huge funeral procession in front of the house. And I had never experienced anything like that. Like they came around with the police car and the motorcycles and this and that. And I'm like, wow, this guy really was like
a big deal.
Like somebody,
Yeah.
And I kind of, and people were genuinely upset and they were crying. And like this guy, and I remember my mother said to me, I said, "Well, what is that guy?" I mean, I might have been 4 or 5. He says, "Well, that guy helped a lot of people. And so a lot of people are sad today that he's gone because he can't help anybody anymore."
Right.
Wow.
And I never forgot that. That kind of got ingrained in me. So there was something in the back of my mind, that and my dad. My dad was like, "Look, the city job, that's the best job, right? You take every test." And we lived across the street from Roosevelt High School, which is where they would give the civil service tests, and I took every one.
That was on the Lower East Side?
Bathgate and Fordham, right by Fordham University,
okay.
in the Bronx. And the cops called me first. And I kind of worked harder on that application.
Right.
God bless sanitation, but it wasn't as exciting a career opportunity, So, boom, I go into the police academy.
Came on 83?
Yeah, January 83.
So the Luigi came and he cut your hair. How short did he cut it?
Well, a lot shorter than it needed to be. I think Luigi thought I was going to Marine Corps boot camp. Because then I show
He
up.
broke out the clippers.
He sheared me like a
sheep.
like a sheep in Wisconsin, man. I mean, he.
Did you meet that guy Skippy from Left?
Oh, absolutely.
Wasn't he? He's a treasure, national treasure.
Skippy
that
was
guy.
like, and yo, Rod Stewart, what's your problem? He would say to me.
I don't think he met Skippy.
you
you had
missed out on
Skippy
Well,
too.
let me ask you a question. So when you went back to the academy the next day, did they even recognize you?
So I remember the guys behind me who were pretty cool, and we met and we were talking, and I heard them go, "Man, what happened to that rock dude? I guess he didn't make it." I turned around and they're like, "Oh my God, what the hell happened to you?" Right? But look, 30 years later, I'm bald as a cue
You could
ball.
have been Eddie Money.
Nah, he was never a cop. I found out he was a police trainee.
Oh, is that right?
His brother was made it
Captain,
captain.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are
Eddie
those
Money.
pictures of him in the uniform, though?
Yeah, you said he was a
He
trainee.
was a trainee.
He never
So
actually,
like his time would have counted if he became a cop. But back then they had something. I guess it was like a
yeah.
the
A lot of
precursor to
guys,
the
like I think
cadets.
Anamone was a trainee. Esposito. They came on when they were 18.
Yeah, and the time counts.
counted. Yeah.
So it wasn't auxiliary. I think John Rowe was something.
A
too,
trainee,
because
probably.
John.
He had 42 years, I think, when he
John
retired,
had
right?
He came on when he was like 17, and that time that's what he probably was.
Well, today they have the cadet corps, right?
Yeah,
Which is kind of.
I
like
never saw a cadet that became anything on the
It's like
job.
No, they
RO
all do. What are
It's
you
pretty
kidding me?
new, though.
Yeah, no,
It's
they
not
go.
that-
They go.
Oh no! Actually, there was one. She was an African girl,
Because they all
Akinyele, and
come
she
on with
became an
college
inspector.
degrees.
It's like ROTC for the police department.
Yeah.
Like I guess if you're in the military and you get a degree and then you become an officer as opposed to an enlisted guy.
Right.
They don't.
You don't
get
need
that.
a degree to come on, but if you come on with a degree, there's the average of those people wind up more than become bosses than the other way. Because you're used to taking a test, you're used to studying. It's not that foreign to you anymore. So that's why you
Hey,
rise
man.
up through the ranks. But what else? When you went back to the band now,
So
you
the
come back with
band-
the short hair.
Yeah. So the band, we were still.
Got fired.
I started wearing a hat. I started wearing a hat, and we were still auditioning for record companies when I was for about the first month that I was in the academy, and I was just I couldn't do it. We had a scooter chart, right? 8 to 4, 4 to 12, and we would do the 8 to 4. I'd be in a rehearsal studio trying to work with these guys, and there used to be a big building on 8th Avenue called the Music Building, right? And it was nothing but music studios and rehearsal studios. Madonna was in there at that time. Cyndi Lauper, we didn't know who they were. And P.S. Eventually, I'm like, guys, I can't do this. I'm like, physically, it's a lot. The academy takes up your time. I don't have to tell you guys, you know.
Sure.
And to do that and try and play in a rock band, and it's too much. So that was the end of that. But I never let the music go. I mean,
But you had to leave the band.
I had to leave that band.
Whatever happened to them?
Interestingly enough, I was with one of them on Saturday night, who came to see my current band. It's a cover band that we do. And another guy I was with about a month ago. We're trying to keep in touch and hang out and go to dinner and stuff. And it's good stuff.
But I mean, they never wound up getting the record deal.
No. I mean, they all have their own businesses and stuff. I mean, I know so many really incredibly talented musicians.
It's so hard to make it.
It's really like hitting lotto. I mean, talent is half the equation. The other half is
marketing and being a businessman.
right place, right time, and there's just so many variables.
It's the same shit we're doing.
Yeah, I think it's better. Yeah, I think it's if I had to say, easier now, because there's so many different avenues to get your stuff out there. You can do it on your own. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But look at comedy. If you get a podcast, if you manage somehow to start accumulating followers and you stick through it and you're consistent, and then you also do stand-up, that'll translate. There's a way to get a fan base. And once you have a fan base now, like if whatever you go for, they go right to your Instagram, your Twitter, and see how many fans you have. And if you have a lot of fans, it's a much easier road.
Yeah,
sure.
You know what I'm saying? You'll get something. But back then, you had to have those. You only had to go the one. There wasn't really like an independent label yet. Those weren't. Those were probably coming up at that point.
Well, now people can become famous from YouTube, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot more ways.
There's that kid who I don't know what is.
But it's not the same type of fame, though. It's a spread out. It could be very hard within.
You talk about that Asian guitar player,
No,
Sunga Jung or
there's
something?
There's a kid who reviews toys for other kids, and he's one of the biggest YouTube stars there is. It's insane.
And there's the video game guy. There's the one
there's
guy
a
who's
guy
really
for
great in
everything.
video games.
Right.
You know, if you're into wristwatches, there are wristwatch channels. If you're into cameras, if you're into model cars, whatever.
We're into police off the cuff, and we're trying to bust out here.
Yeah.
My girl's into candles, man. She has a page, an Instagram page. It's called Sensei. Not Sensei, Sensei. And she posts up the pictures that she takes.
Sensei.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's a play on the sensei.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's a great name. And she takes pictures of the candles. But she puts them, with nice backdrops.
Is she
and one of them
selling? Is she selling the candles?
No, she doesn't make the candles. She gets them. It's this whole thing. It's hard to explain. It's girl stuff, bro. But they get into these Bath and Body Works. They have their own line of candles, and it's a big thing, man. Like they have sales, and you get coupons, and I know way more about this than I should, but I've become like fascinated by it because it's an underground.
Is she in there? Is she in Bed and Bath Body Works or whatever? Did she get her?
Well, they
product
used
in
one
there?
of her pictures
That's key.
on their Instagram, which was pretty cool. Yeah, and it's a whole world of candles, man. It's out there.
Wow.
But there's a lot of these different subcultures, that you can get involved in. So the fan base, whatever you do now, it's very, like a Kevin Hart, he crosses over everything. The Rock, so does he, Dwayne Johnson. But there's not that, they're not like Elvis, man. Back in the day,
Right.
Elvis, John Wayne, James Brown, all these different singers, Bill Cosby. There was only one, Richard Pryor, and everybody knew them.
Yeah.
Now in comedy, you could have your own comic that you think is great and he's brilliant, but not everybody in the world knows him the way they used to. Because there's just so much. There's so much content out there now.
You guys like Sebastian Maniscalco?
I think
Yeah,
he's great.
Yeah,
I love
he's
him.
great. I love the
He's
fact that
funny
he went
as
up
hell.
on the, I think it was the VH1 or the MTV.
the VMAs. It was
The
great.
VMA, yeah.
Oh.
And then, he was he the first one? Or Dave Chappelle's special came out first? But you had a three-way attack. You had Dave Chappelle's, then Sebastian's, then Bill's.
Did they give
And they're
Sebastian a tough time after he
Yeah.
did?
Oh, yeah.
What,
Yeah.
they didn't like his ethnic humor?
It's
or?
not.
No,
you don't
it
know
wasn't
how
even
many.
ethnic. It
It
was
wasn't
like-
ethnic. It was a knock on the millennials.
Right.
We're going to have backstage if I offend you, if anything I say offends you
A
backstage.
crying room.
There's
exactly.
a safe space, and somebody had a donkey back there that you could pet. It was great.
We'll give you
it was a dig.
Yeah, see, people like you were laughing.
That's
but
great.
Some of
You
them
know,
were like, ooh.
Sometimes even when I do stand up and I do millennial jokes, and almost all the comics are millennials, they don't like it. They don't like
they
to be
don't. You're
teased.
making fun of them.
They don't like to be teased.
But that was part of our upbringing, being teased.
Oh,
If you were a cop, you got tortured.
It
Talk
doesn't.
about
Plain
we
and
used to
doesn't.
say if you were a cop and you had any type of affliction, you were done.
Oh, you were
right?
done.
If you stuttered, people were like, I mean,
Yeah, I don't
you
even
got
notice it
teased
sometimes.
beyond-
But like the other days, somebody that I work with, they're like, man, you went at him pretty hard. And I was like, really? I didn't even notice it. But then you look back and you're like, I pretty much, like, if you hang out with me, I'm going to fuck with you all day.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that you fuck with me all day. Like,
Right.
I love
Sure,
doing
sure,
stuff like
yeah.
that. And in between then, we'll make fun of
Yeah,
a
'cause
whole
the
bunch
police
of,
department like
every
kids,
single
right?
person
Apparently
that
that's a
passes
lost art now.
Yeah,
goes
no,
through
I-
our path will get made fun of. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I remember there was a gay guy in the 2-3 and they used to call him a butt pirate. And that was before, then all of a sudden it became a lawsuit.
Yeah.
They call me butt pirate, and he sued. But years before that, it was all good kidding.
Did he win?
I think he did, yeah.
Did they give him
They gave him a patch and they gave him the hat.
No. Did they give him a treasure chest full of gold?
Oh, man.
No, but I mean, look, there was
Aye,
so
mate.
much kidding around that when does the kidding around stop?
Well, when is it bullying too? When is it?
On the police department? Come on.
There was no line.
No. I mean,
Well,
But,
also
it
too-
wasn't vicious.
Yeah, but
No.
don't forget too. You could help a lot to it. Your locker could wind up turned upside down. I've seen somebody's desk get thrown out the window. All their papers on the street, and they didn't even deserve that one. The Warren Squad was so packed because they had this office on 98th Street and 3rd Avenue, and there was like 40 people in there. And then when we had the new police commissioner, Carrick, he worked warrants, so he loved warrants. So that was broken windows that were following it. picking up people on warrants, getting them to go through the system off the streets constantly. They put an extra 100 people there. So now there's 140 people in this place that used to hold 40.
Oh, God.
And some guy took a desk and he put it like right by a door. So whenever you open the door, you would hit his desk. And these guys, we worked with some guys that were crazy guys, big bodybuilder guys. And they were like, whose fucking desk is that? And they were like, oh, that's this guy's. They're like, fuck that desk. And they pick it up and just throw it right out the window. And it was a wooden desk, something that he got from IKEA that he made himself.
Oh, man.
You know, just to fit in this tiny little area of a space, just so he can have his own work area. But it was like blocking the, fuck this desk, right out the window.
You know, when I worked in the 2-3 squad, I got transferred to homicide. I used to come back and, you know, because we used to have the greatest laughs in the 2-3 squad. And I would walk in, and a detective named John D'Alessio sat in the first desk to the right. And I would walk in, and as soon as he saw me, he'd be like, oh, no. Because he knew it was on. The ball breaking had just started. I'd be like, Johnny, do me a favor. Go get me some pasta fazool and a little scungil and get yourself some anisette. Three coffee beans, all right? You know how it works, right? And get yourself whatever you want. And be like, fuck you. But then it just started, and then it just exploded. The whole squad would start busting balls. But it was all fun, you know? And
So I want to get back to Lou for a second. I'm so fascinated by this. The going into the academy, now you're out of the rock band, and you settled into becoming a cop?
So I settled into becoming a cop. And
Where'd you live?
I lived on Laurelard Place, which is like by Arthur Avenue in the Bronx.
in the Bronx.
In the 4-8.
Oh, he couldn't get away from that hard crusted Italian bread.
Nah.
He had to have that.
My family is Terra Nova Bakery. You know Terra Nova bread?
I've heard of it, yeah.
It's my mother's sister.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I couldn't get away from that.
So you had some
great.
coin in the family.
Right?
Mate, you know what I love
that
about
side of the family. We're only
remember-
first cousins.
Do you remember when you were a kid and your mother used to send you to the corner to get bread? Go get Italian bread, and he used to go to the corner, and by the time you came back home,
Half
at
the
least
bread
a
was
quarter
gone.
of it was gone.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
For sure.
because you'd
Are
start
you,
eating it.
Louis, are you a connoisseur of fine olive oils?
I don't know about connoisseur, but I know.
Genko's the best.
You know,
I mean,
you know the difference between Zabars and...
you know what's interesting? We've been getting into, my wife and I have been getting into Spanish olive oil lately, which is a little different.
We're not talking about your sex life. We're talking about culinary.
Listen, whatever works, brother. After 30, geez, how many years?
You've been married over 30 years?
31 years married, 35 years together. It's a long time.
Yeah, I've been married 30 years also.
Yeah, so
You're good now. You mentioned them.
you know the
But we don't get into olive oil,
Yes,
just
dear.
for eating.
Well, listen, whatever works, man. But I forgot the original.
So you're living
question.
in the Bronx. You're
Living in the
single,
Bronx.
and you're this cop.
I'm in NSU 8.
And you were a guitarist in the band there?
I was.
Did you sing too?
I did.
So that's cool though.
Yeah, and then interestingly enough, I still needed. I mean, we didn't make a lot of money back then.
So you were gigging.
So I started doing gigs, playing weddings, Italian weddings.
Oh, that's
in an
great.
Italian
Oh, my
wedding
God.
band.
How many times did you have to play that?
Oh man, in my life.
Do they play it more than once a night?
No.
I love when the guy in the Godfather...
And how long does it last? How long does it last when you actually play it? It's like a 20-minute bit?
It depends on the size of the tarantella circle.
Uh-huh.
So if it's
Half
small
hour?
and it's going to
Could
be
be half
length,
hour?
no. I mean that.
If it's big. If
If it's big, 10 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, because the old timers start having heart attacks. I mean, you can't,
And does it raise up like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it goes up. How many times did you do that with the raising up where the beat starts going fast and fast?
Well, it was like we did that, and then we did like shout, like when everybody
Oh,
was
yeah,
crazy at
yeah.
their wedding shout, so the American weddings we would do shout, and the Italian weddings we would do the tarantella,
Uh-huh.
And I remember putting in an off-duty employment application and being denied. And they were like, nope.
You're playing in a licensed premise,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, you should
so
have never
I'm
told me.
like, what? And so by then I forgot where I was working.
I hated that freaking stupid off.
They owned your ass, man.
Listen, they said to me, you can't do it. And I said, why not? And they said, because it's a licensed premise. I said, but I'm being hired by the bride and groom's, parents. I'm not working for Marina Del Rey or whoever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, well, too bad, So we sued. The PBA gave us a lawyer. It was
But
me
you
and
weren't a
another
lawyer
guy.
yet, though.
No.
But
It
that's-
actually got me fascinated into becoming
that's
a lawyer.
great. Go ahead.
So we brought in Article 78, which is like it's a special proceeding. Long story short, we won. The PBA,
And
so-
were you the one that initiated the lawsuit through the PBA's lawyers?
Yeah, me and this guy, Vito Calamito.
Holy shit!
And Vito
What is he-
Calamito.
What does he do? Deliver
Lou
cheese on the
LaPietra.
He was police officer.
And Vito
Vito.
Calamito.
Listen,
will you please stand?
In fact, I'm gonna.
Pietra and Vito Calamito, would you please
The
come
job
to
thought
the
that it was
deli
the mob's
counter?
coming.
Listen, man, he was police officer Vito Calamito.
Holy shit!
And he worked. I worked with him in Gracie Mansion. We were in the uniform.
But you guys were big in the Columbia Association, I bet, right?
You want to know something? I don't think I ever joined.
No shit.
And
'Cause
I
they
got
had
more
power.
Italian, and I mean, I have all this Italian. Like, I'm first generation. I mean, it's part of who I am.
They
I
have
don't
more
think-
power than like the Emerald Society is the biggest, but they don't have the juice that the Columbia,
I don't think I ever joined. I think I might have joined a year.
I
and
heard
never
there's
kept
better
up with
food
it.
at their meetings too. Like the Emerald Society's hot dogs and sauerkraut and beer, and the
Yeah,
Columbia
yeah.
Society's
Well,
got
no,
it all.
you're gonna-
They got all
listen.
the eggplant palm.
You ever go to Italy? Have you been
Yes.
to Italy?
I went to Venice
Mark,
No.
have you been
and
to Italy?
Tuscany.
I can tell you this: nobody goes to Italy and comes back and says, "Man, that sucked."
No, the food's
No,
amazing.
I've never heard anybody say that.
Amazing.
No. So it's all good stuff. But
He
Well-
may go to Italy though and think the food's Latin or Spanish.
well, it's all good. Some of it.
If we were in the squad, I would have stared at him right now, and then he would have known that that didn't work.
he
that
didn't
one.
like that.
No, that was,
he,
it was
he didn't
funny.
like. He didn't
He
like
doesn't
that
like
one.
being teased.
I don't
you know?
mind being teased, but I mean, give me some. No one.
Mark, Spain is very like.
I went to Spain though. I
Spain's
went to
supposed to have
Mallorca.
some of the best food.
But I went to
in the world.
Mallorca.
Love it. I mean,
Mallorca
Spain
is an island off of Spain.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful. The
Oh, it's
food,
fantastic.
that food, that food. I love that food. It's light.
It's great.
I mean, one of the best meals I ever had was some tuna fish.
Tartar.
Right off the beach there in a little restaurant
Well, it's interesting that he says that
on a
because-
piece of bread.
Yeah.
With some olives on the side. I
Super
never
fresh,
forget that
super simple.
tuna fish. It was
That's
the best.
deal.
It was
They
amazing.
had sardines, I remember, right? So we think of sardines as like this crap in a can.
Right.
The sardines in Spain were like these fish about yay big, and they would roast them in foil over a fire for like the whole day, and then the meat just came off and like you said, little olive oil, little lemon, and man, it was unbelievable.
Don't
Super light,
sardines
super good.
become anchovies?
I guess, but these were like completely.
They
You know,
don't?
since then, never had them again except in the south of Spain. Mm-hmm. You know,
Andrew says sardines don't become anchovies.
Now it's a different
He's a
fish.
foodie. It's a different fish?
yeah.
What kind of fish is an anchovy?
The anchovy.
No shit.
He says, "What's an anchovy?" It's an anchovy.
Do you take a fishing rod to catch them? And
He's our
Holy
fact
shit.
finder. Andrew's our fact
Good
finder.
thing we have him
But
here, man.
he has no. It's just whatever he thinks. He has no. Most of the time, he has no knowledge about it. But we have to go to him as our fact. You like you break the tie. You're the tiebreaker.
that's right. It's a tiebreaker.
That's good.
So you're in the Bronx. How old are you now?
I'm in the Bronx. I'm a 22-year-old cop, 23 maybe.
But when this lawsuit happens and you win, you become fascinated by.
Yeah, I do. So the whole
You start
time
thinking
I'm
about going back to school.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing, like a lot of cops do, 6 credits at a time at John Jay, and little by little.
What was
getting
John
closer.
Jay like back then? Was it friendly to the cops or was it?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. I remember they had a program where the PBA would pay for 3 credits, and then you paid for 3 credits, and they would have the core classes. They would repeat them in the afternoon or in the morning if you were doing
Right.
if you're going around the clock. So if you had Professor Panzarella in Criminal Justice 101, you could either take it Tuesday morning at like 8 o'clock in
Why'd
the
you have to
morning.
mention an Italian professor?
That's who I
'Cause
remember.
he was really your professor, right?
He really was.
He was a lieutenant, right?
Panzarella was.
Yeah.
You remember him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a hostage guy, I think.
Yeah. He was, but you would never know it because he was so like when he spoke, he was very mellow.
He was a
and
hostage That's
soothing.
probably why he was a good hostage negotiator.
He was an HNT guy.
No,
Yeah,
put
yeah.
the gun down.
Right. Yeah. That's how he was.
Yeah.
So they coordinated the college schedule so you can make after your tour. Give you
Yeah.
enough time to get there and take
Whether
your
you did a
courses after.
midnight or whether you did a day tour.
But
you-
John Jay has turned now to liberal arts and not as cop friendly, I don't think.
Listen, I wound up as an adjunct there for 10 years.
Yeah.
And
No, I got my master's there, but in security management, not in criminal justice.
yeah. I mean, I
Let's
think
get a little closer to the lawyering because we're almost up on our first hour.
Yeah, we could do that the second.
No, I know. I just want to get a little bit closer to this. So, between the fascination of the court case, you winning that, or
Yeah.
did you say to yourself, you know what? Maybe I'll finish up and get this undergrad and
Yeah, that was part of it. Part of it was another fascination with it. Also, I mean, I thought police work and legal work, I mean, they're related.
But you weren't a boss. Were you a sergeant already now?
So by the time I went to law school, I made sergeant in September of '89.
You didn't have a side gig then, though, other than playing in the band. You didn't get, because a lot of cops have side gigs.
I played in the band, and it kept
But
me
now
pretty
you were,
busy.
since you won, you were able to play in the band.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so
good.
and
Were
in
you
the
playing
80s,
like every weekend or no?
probably 2 or 3 weekends a
Because
month.
weddings could be lucrative back then, right?
They were.
Yeah.
They were. And at one point, I mean, I remember, like looking at my tax return and saying, "Oh man, like I think I'm making half as much as a
Playing
musician
weddings. Yeah.
than I am as a cop," and like, but I'm not working nearly as many hours as a musician. But
That's what I was doing with the comedy.
yeah, and
That's what I was doing with the comedy. When you go out and you can make like $600 on a weekend,
Right.
15, 20 years
Right.
ago. And
exactly.
that's basically what my check was after taxes for a week. It was
Pretty
like
much.
$700,
Yeah. But
So-
then the live band thing started to die, and people started getting more into DJs and stuff. So, whatever. Law school.
Where'd you go to law school?
I went to Brooklyn Law School at
Oh,
night.
okay.
And
You went at night.
yeah, so law school, you're a full-time student, which means you go by day. It takes 3 years, or you're a part-time student, which you go at night and it takes 4 years. It's just there's
That's
basically
still got to be torturous to do while you're working. Right?
brutal.
Yeah,
It's
gotta
I
be
mean,
brutal.
the first year and a half to 2
The
years.
amount of
is-
studying you have to do is ridiculous, right?
you have to have a really understanding spouse. I mean, we had little babies,
Yeah.
and you basically work all day, and then you go to school at night, and it was like Monday through Thursday. Fridays we were off, and Saturday and Sunday for the first year and a half, you live in a law library
Right. So
because you're not going to be. And law school is weird. It's not like, there's no papers, there's no, grading as you go. Some people never even showed up except for the final exam. The whole thing is the final exam. which
You're
is a-
talking about the final exam at the end of the year or after 4 years?
No, the final exam of a given class. So let's say you
Okay.
were studying contracts, right? So I remember contracts was my first exam in law school, and it was a 5-credit course, which is a big deal, right? And it was one question.
Wow.
You had 4 hours to answer it. It had
you had to answer it in an essay.
it had
right?
30 subparts.
Oh, good.
Right? So it was like this crazy construction contract with like scaffold companies and general contractors and subs and landlords. It was just this jumble of facts that you had to apply the law to. And if you have a bad day, too bad. It's and you never know what you're going to do. You don't know because it's graded on a curve. So, and there's no wrong answer, because you and I could be a lawyer and we see this, we see something in completely different ways. Doesn't mean I'm wrong, you're wrong, but somehow you have to apply the law to the facts and convince the fact finder that your argument is the correct one.
But you really do have to know the law. You can't just bullshit it.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no. There's no
and
bluffing.
you just get like a pass or fail for the test?
No, you get a grade.
You get a grade.
So
get
what
a
happened now? There was the five
So
credit course.
Yeah, and I
The
remember
first
my
one.
daughter was about to be born, and I remember we're in the hot. So it's funny how when you have kids, Billy.
2, yeah.
So how far are they apart?
2.5 years. 3
Okay,
years.
so the first kid, like everything happens, it's a panic, right?
Right.
Mark, do you have kids?
Yeah,
All right,
same
so
thing.
remember the first baby, you're like, oh my God, right? Second one's like, we've been here already. So
Right.
my daughter Nicole was going to be born basically the day before my first law school exam, and we're in the hospital.
So you're freaking.
and in between contractions, I'm looking at a book, and then I'm holding my wife's hand, and then I'm looking at a book, and it was like after a while the doctor.
She's getting pissed that
Yeah,
you're
she's
looking
like,
at the book.
Just go. I got this, But then right before, she was born, of course, I went back upstairs and,
Right.
But that's how it was like kind
My
of.
wife threw me out to get a
wire.
slice of pizza because she didn't want me around.
Really?
Her mother was there with her. But I came back and I was there for the birth.
No, I was, yeah.
I was the second one.
It's
The first one
amazing
took
how-
forever to be born.
What it takes to actually become successful,
Yeah.
thrive. It takes a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
That's what I try to instill.
I've-
in my
but
kids.
like Louis
do it
says-
when you're young.
Yeah.
Do it when you're young because it gets the older you get, the harder it gets.
The energy level.
And the energy levels and the excuses that you
Especially
can come up with,
school.
but you did it at the right time, man. I admire you.
I seen other guys that went to law school too.
I'm gonna wrap up the first hour here, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna learn about the law career and how what you do representing police officers throughout these years.
All right.
And how much you've helped. All right, I think the first hour has been fascinating, man. I really,
Thanks
really
for having me. I
enjoyed it.
can't believe it's been an hour.
Yeah,
It goes quick, right?
Goes fast, you know.
It goes quick, man.
And we didn't even start picking on you
Yeah, man,
yet.
you tell a great story, man. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. All right, we'll be back.